Hi friends, welcome to Harmony Hills Home and Garden. I'm Jenny and we live and garden in Baltimore, Maryland, Zone 7. Today I was walking around in the morning in the garden admiring all of the beautiful spring flowers that we have going on, and I was inspired to make a plan for this driveway fence garden that extends the entire length of our driveway. So I thought I would share with you today what I'm going to be doing with this driveway fence garden over the course of the next few months. Come with me and let's talk about the plan. Now, a few videos ago, I think I have 2 videos on this garden so far. One of them I put in the can rose that's up there on the fence. And then the other one I added in some flowering perennials here and some daffodils. So that got me to thinking about what to do about the rest of the garden. Let's take a closer look at what is already here in this fence garden. I would say the garden starts up here in this, I guess it's a walled garden that's at the top of the courtyard near the stairs, but then it continues down on a very slopey hill, bordered by the driveway and a guttering system that someone a long time ago put in that has granite rocks forming a rainwater gutter. And then most of the garden is covered in this periwinkle or vinca minor. And then there's also daylilies, these really common orange ditch lilies. There's also quite a bit of spiderwort in there, like right here and right here. But mostly it's vinca. There's also English ivy in here, daylilies, spiderwort, and then as we move down the hill, we have tried to remove some of these invasive plants. You know, periwinkle is an invasive species, and it has taken over a lot of places in Maryland where native plants can't grow anymore. And the same thing with this orange daylily. A lot of people like them, but I don't like them. The common ditch lily, they are a non-native invasive species as well. Now, the spiderwort is a native species in Maryland, and so I'm okay with it staying because it does support our local wildlife that has co-evolved with it over the, over the years. So we've tried to take out some, but what has happened is when we removed the ivy and the vinca and didn't replace it with anything, weeds moved in, or the same invasive plants have moved in. So down in this spot, for example, we had removed a bunch of the vinca. It's starting to grow back. The English ivy is starting to grow back. We did put mulch here to prevent weeds, but it hasn't really worked. And we did put in some ajuga to try to use as a ground cover. But we don't have any irrigation on this part. So the ajuga has, some of it has taken hold, and actually here's a nicer patch of it. I believe this is the chocolate chip variety, and it's getting ready to bloom here in a little while probably, but it hasn't really spread wildly. And in fact, since I planted this ajuga here a few years ago, I have since learned that ajuga is not a native plant. I want to focus on native plants in these wilder places like along this driveway. I want to be focusing on native plants in my garden so that I can do my best to support the local ecosystems. So it's okay with me if the ajuga doesn't work here because I'd rather do something here that's native. Okay, so then as we move on down here, we come to a bend in the driveway. This is going down a very pretty steep slope. This is my driveway hill garden where I've got my hellebores over there. But on this side of the driveway, past this walnut tree, it is this vinca, English ivy, and then this huge swath of the ditch lilies. These are the orange invasive daylilies. In here also we do have some native phlox paniculata, the pink kind that's native in Maryland, but it is pretty much getting drowned out by these daylilies. Now this stand of sticks here are a deciduous shrub. These are native. These are Carolina allspice. And so I believe a bird brought those in because we didn't plant them and they weren't there when we moved in 8 years ago. So I think these came in naturally through the wildlife, and they've been growing into a nice big patch. They put on big green leaves, and it's a nice, actually, it's a really nice stand of division between our driveway and our next door neighbor. So I'm happy with those allspice there. And then as we continue down the driveway, it becomes a very narrow planting space there. It's got a row of what look to be probably hemlock trees that are dying off because of the woolly adelgid problem that we have here. And then we've got walnut trees and then more of the ditch lilies and so forth. Now, I don't plan to try to address all of this driveway. Really, we're focusing from this tree up the hill to the steps. Now, the site conditions for this are, number one, we've got a walnut tree, which means that we have juglone, which means that not every plant will thrive near this. So I have to be mindful of finding plants that can tolerate juglone. So that is a consideration. Also, it's a slope, it's a steep slope that goes from the grass in the backyard down a very steep drop off to the driveway into this rainwater channel here. So I have to deal with plants that can handle a slope. It's dry because of the tree roots, because there's no irrigation here, although I could add drip irrigation. I have that in my master plan. So for some specific plants, I might be putting some drip irrigation on them, especially in their first year. But in the long term, I'd really rather have this hill be filled with natives who can handle a dry slope. And then sunlight from about, I don't know, midway up the hill down to the walnut tree. It's pretty much full shade in the summertime. Now, right now, we don't have leaves on the trees, so everything is getting mostly sun during the day. But as soon as the leaves come out in a month or two, this will be full shade down here by the walnut tree. And then up at the top, the sun is really hot and heavy in the middle of the day for about 3 hours, but then it's in the shade. So it's a very strange sun situation as well. One more consideration that I forgot to mention is that whatever I put in here needs to be deer proof. Okay, I know nothing is deer proof, but it needs to be at least deer resistant. It can't be a deer attractor. So I can't do things along here that I would want to do naturally, like hostas, hydrangeas, viburnums even. They eat my viburnums. They eat a lot of ornamental plants in my garden. So the deer I've seen them do it. They come up the driveway, they walk up on this hill up toward the fence, and they eat the stuff that's in this garden. I've seen the deer up in this garden. In fact, they have eaten the hostas and the sedums that are up in that garden, and even up inside the courtyard in the little triangular shaped bed that I have up in there. I've seen deer laying in the corner of the fence up in the courtyard. So I know I have to deal with them. I know I have to put plants in here that they don't prefer. So that is my one of the important considerations. We also do have rabbits and squirrels. They give me much less trouble than the deer do. So those are my criteria. So I was thinking about all of this last night after I had, settled in for the night. I had my iPad and I had my little drawing app on my iPad, and I decided to sketch out an idea for what to do in this garden. So as you've seen in my other videos, I already have this can rose right here. And it will grow out probably 8 to 10 feet on either side. And actually, the fence sections between the fence posts is 10 feet. So I can envision that this rose will eventually, maybe not in its first year, eventually send canes out almost all the way to this post and almost all the way to this post. And so with that in mind, it makes it really easy for me to consider planting this fence garden in sections that are 20 feet wide. So I can consider from this fence post to this fence post is one section of the garden. And then I can consider the next two fence sections another section of the garden. And if I do that, then that takes me essentially down to the walnut tree with 3 20-foot sections of garden. Does that make sense? I already mentioned that I'm looking for some sort of preferably evergreen, preferably native plant to put up here in this corner. And so as I was thinking about it, I thought, you know what? I think gray owl juniper will be a wonderful plant to put right here. After it's established, it can handle being in a dry situation, although nothing can live with no water. but a gray owl juniper, once established, could really handle this sloping situation very well. And so then I thought, well, what if I delineate each of the 3 20-foot garden sections with a gray owl as a border plant? So I decided to put 3 gray owl junipers down along the fence every 20 feet. And so then in the first section, I already have a rose bush. So I thought, well, I wonder if I can find another climbing rose that I can train on the fence in the second 20-foot garden section. So I'm on the hunt for a climbing rose to put on the fence in the second garden section. And to anchor the third garden section, I thought it's too shady for a rose down there. So I'm in the hunt for a shady climber that I could use on the fence down there. I think I might be able to use a clematis. So I'm in the market for a clematis to cover the fence down on the third section. Now I already have creeping phlox or Phlox subulata in the garden with the can-can rose, and there are 9 of them in there, and they're designed to kind of ring around the base of the rose with a nice carpet. I have 4 on this side, 1 in the center, and 4 on this side. So I think I'm going to just repeat that kind of a planting idea with another climbing rose on this post. I'll put phlox down there too. Of course, I'm going to have to take out all of that junk there. But anyway, so the next garden section, I'm going to just repeat that process. I'm going to take some phlox and put it at the base of whatever climber I choose there. Now, also in this garden section, I have 6 candy tuft, and those will grow to be about 2 feet in diameter, each of them. So eventually they may touch each other. They'll mix and mingle with the phlox, and it'll be a nice kind of just naturalistic ground cover situation. Now, this section of the garden has more planting space. It's roughly 6 feet from the granite blocks up to the fence, whereas down at the bottom, it's more like 3 or 4 feet between the granite blocks and the fence. So this area up here has more room for plantings. So I'm not going to have room for the candy tuft style plants down on the lower section. So it's not going to be exactly alike, but it'll be similar. And so if I have a gray owl here and a gray owl here, phlox in between, candy tuft across, that leaves me room for some more ground covers up in this area and up in this area between the gray owl and the phlox in here, also down along the front. I've been studying really hard in books, online, and on YouTube for ideas for native ground covers that hold slopes. And the thing that keeps coming up over and over is sedge or carex. Carex are plants that are native to North America. Some are native to my area, some are native to other parts of North America. So I'll be looking for carex plants that are native to the mid-Atlantic area of the United States and that can be used in a dry slope shade situation. And I think I have found 1 or 2 that will fit the bill.
One that I'm considering is Carex woodii, or woods sedge. This is rated by the Mount Cuba Center in Delaware as a really, really good one that exemplifies the ornamental value and versatility of sedges in garden settings. Another option that I found is Carex albicans, or white tinged sedge. It has wispy arching leaf blades and a delicate mounding appearance. So it's also really good for difficult dry shade.
So I'm planning to use 15, maybe 18 of those carex to spread down the hill that will help with soil management, erosion control. It will help with using native plants for wildlife benefit. It'll provide a beautiful tufted texture that's different from everything else that we've got going on in this garden. And it will provide a repetition down the hill, which will be pleasing to the eye. Another plant that has come across my radar lately is Homestead Purple Verbena. Now, I have used Homestead Verbena since I started gardening. I've had it in every single garden I've ever grown. That's really thrived in some. It has failed in others. I've tried it here in this garden, and not in this particular garden, but in another section of our property. And I have not been successful in getting it to overwinter. However, I think that this location might be just the ticket, because this hill faces south. So it's going to get warm winter sun. It's going to be protected from the northwest winds by the hill and the stairwell there. So I think I'm going to fill this lower section of the garden with Homestead Purple Verbena. It will bloom all summer long, gorgeous, fill in, really be a stunner. And then I'm going to repeat that across the gardens as well. And so that will be another repeated element that will really help this garden thrive. Now, any spaces that are left between all those plantings, I will put in ground covers like creeping sedum or ice plant, or I'll look for other native to Maryland ground covers that we can use. One of them, for example, down in the bottom area by the walnut tree, I'm going to be putting in there Pachyra aurea, or golden ragwort. And that is a native plant to Maryland that is wonderful for our ecology. It sends up bright yellow daisy-like flowers about this time of year, and all year long it has a low 1 to 2 inch tall green leaf cover, and it spreads wonderfully. Some people say it spreads aggressively, but I want it in this situation. Anywhere it wants to go, I'll be happy to have it. So I'm going to be, instead of using the Phlox subulata down there, I'm going to be using some of the Pachyra as a ground cover. And so here is a overall sketch of what I'm planning to put into the garden over the coming month or two. Now, this project is going to take a lot of work, because all of those invasive plants, that vinca, those daylilies, the English ivy, and anything else in there that doesn't belong, has to be dug out. And getting all of the roots of that is a really difficult task. In fact, I'm not kidding myself. I don't think we're going to be able to get 100% of all those roots. So we will be fighting those plants for quite some time. But we're going to take it a little bit at a time. We're not digging out anymore until we have the plants to immediately put back into the soil, because I don't want bare soil in the garden. So that's going to be the plan here. Let me know what you think. If you have suggestions for plants, if you have suggestions for design ideas, let me know. But please keep in mind the criteria that I've set out for myself. And yeah, so let me know what you think. Thanks so much for joining me today. I hope you're having a wonderful time wherever you are, and I hope I'll see you again in another video real soon. Take care. Bye.